Welcome in, everybody, to the CFB Nation All-America podcast. My name is Bill Trocchi, senior editor here at sportingnews.com, alongside Bill Bender, lead college football writer at sportingnews.com. And Bill, for the second straight All-America podcast, we welcome in a special guest. Today, it's Woody Womack from Rivals.com, one of the many recruiting experts over there. And he survived an interesting 24 hours yesterday and lived to tell about it, and now he's going to tell us about it. Woody, thanks for joining.
What's up, Bills? Surprised you don't have a more unique name, since you're known as the podcast naming aficionado, Trocchi. What happened? We went with All-American college football. We couldn't do a pun.
All-America podcast. That's right. I named commitment issues, and I named respect my decision over at the Rivals Podcast Network, which have been busy, and I've been listening. So very good there. So Woody, let's start with the national signing period started yesterday. 90% of the activity was completed yesterday, but one of the bigger names did not sign. Number 2 in the nation, according to Rivals, a cornerback from Lakeland, Florida, Cormani McClain. Looked like he was a hurricane, and then he wasn't. What's going on? Is Deion Sanders he stole Travis Hunter last year. Is he going to steal Cormani McClain too?
So, one of the things we're going to see in the NIL era is, and we're seeing it with a lot of people who hit the transfer portal, some of these promises are not coming to fruition when it comes to some of these financial terms. So, I think now a lot of these players are making sure everything is in writing up front. And if it's not in writing the way they like, you're going to see some of this stuff where, we hold out and letters aren't signed. Now, in the past, it used to be the bag man didn't get there on time, or he didn't fly out there and meet up with someone from the family in time to send in the letter. But now it's lawyers, it's real financial paperwork. So I expect everything to get ironed out with Cormani today. Problem with Colorado and Deion, and I said this on, some other appearance I did, the AD said they didn't even have the money yet to pay Deion. So, the NIL structure is not in place yet in Colorado, and Deion's going to need some time. And maybe next year at this time, they could say, hey, we're going to go steal Cormani away from Miami at the 11th hour, but that structure is not there, especially when we're getting hung up on some financial issues.
One more player I wanted to check in on, then I'll let Bill hit you up with a question. Peyton Bowen, 5-star safety, committed to Notre Dame for a long time, but it was no secret that it was kind of a soft commit by the end. Oklahoma was involved, and all of a sudden Oregon came out of the blue yesterday, and it looked like he was headed to Oregon. Then at night, he still hadn't signed anything. What are you hearing there?
Yeah, no, I was telling you guys before, by the time this comes out, it might be a done deal to Oklahoma. So the conventional wisdom was he is going to flip. He's going to flip from Notre Dame. It's going to be Oklahoma. That's what we were all prepped for yesterday. As you know, Bill, we have everything prepped ahead of time and various, moves we could make. We have stories for each option, but it was going to be Oklahoma. Then he shot and picked Oregon, and his mom's face. I mean, you saw the video. The mom did not look happy, and we all know mom's got to be happy. So I was told that she wanted him to go to Notre Dame, and the dad wanted him to go to Oregon, and so they might just split the difference, and he's going to go to Oklahoma. So that's how I see it projecting. We're recording this around noon. I wouldn't be surprised if it's unannounced by the end of the day. And I saw Oregon announce a 2024 commit, which sort of sounds like a little PR move to me to kind of soften the blow if and when they lose Bowen today.
Well, Woody, I'm based in Central Ohio, obviously. Ohio State, it's like this weird juxtaposition of another top 5 class, but if you look at what happened yesterday and then with Raiola, there's concerns about NIL. Is it a case here where, the way I tried to put it, the disappointment comes is that they're not recruiting a top 10 class. They're recruiting in relation to the Georgias and Alabamas and may have slipped a little bit. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy what's going on with the Buckeyes fan base right now. I was arguing with a former writer yesterday who was telling me Ryan Day needs to be fired immediately, and he's going to be fired. They're going to lose. They're going to get blown out by Georgia. they're gonna lose to Michigan next year, and he's gonna be fired. And I was like, well, like, I mean, so he's
a
supposed
coach
to,
with a 90% winning percentage
right,
should be fired.
right.
Right.
That's conventional wisdom, though. And then it was like it was actually a TikTok that sent me down the road, and this guy who used to work for like 11 Warriors or something. His entire TikTok page is talking about how much he hates Ryan Day, and the recruiting thing was one of them. And look, they loaded up at wide receiver. They have the number one wide receiver in the class of 2024 committed. I know they lost Raiola, but Raiola to me was always going to be nerve-wracking when he committed that early. This is a guy who, moved from Texas to Arizona to kind of have more of a true platform there to play. Then his uncle works at Nebraska, and everybody knows Scott Frost is going to get fired. Well, then he does get fired, and they bring in, Matt Rule, and they keep the uncle. So to me, like, Nebraska is always going to be lurking. I think they want Nebraska to show signs of life, and if they do, they'll go there because A, you'll have the NIL option, but B, the kid is a Nebraska legacy, and we know, how that program is. My issue is like with Ryan Day, a lot of these, he's shown that he's going to have a quarterback, so I wouldn't be worried about that. I mean, he goes and tries to steal a quarterback from another school almost every cycle. He did it this cycle. They stole the Washington quarterback commit, and he flirted with a couple others as well. They got a few QBs in the pipeline, and guess what? If somebody shakes free a transfer, Ohio State's going to be near the top of the list. To me, the issue is the defensive backs. I mean, that Michigan game was embarrassing. I mean, this is not, a Ohio State, defensive backfield that has 3 or 4 NFL players in it. And, they kicked Kerry Coombs to the curb, couldn't get him out of there fast enough, or blame him for the Oregon game or whatever. But, I mean, he recruited a lot of those quality defensive backs over the years. And I think that's the hole for them right now. I think, the offense is always going to be fine. I think they need to shore up the defense.
Let's circle back to Oregon. They were the headline of the day with all the surprises and the winners and losers. Everyone had Oregon as a winner. And they started to get the Texas A&M treatment of, they bought their whole class. Even if they did, I don't really have a problem with it. Did you see it like that? And I know you don't have a problem with it.
No, I don't have a problem. You know me. I will. I don't care about anything. I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, this is the problem is we have a new set of rules, and it's going to be tough for some fans to adapt to. It's going to be tough for some coaches. It's like Matt Rule tweeting out money emojis. It's like, what? How do you think you got Malachi Coleman? The number one player in your state could have gone to Georgia, and he decided to go play for you. He spurned Dion. Like, you think he did it out of the goodness of his heart? No, like, get out of here with these emojis. Like, Matt Rule, you got $50 million in the bank. You could buy
Sure.
2 full recruiting classes if you wanted to, and still make $10 million a year at Nebraska. So I don't want to hear it. I'm over Matt. Matt Rule is on my bad list after that emoji tweet. Now people being like, "Oh, he owned them. It's a shot at Oregon and whoever else." I was like, this is lame. Come on, Matt, get out of here.
Well, if Matt Rule didn't impress you, which first-year coach did? I know one we highlighted in our section was Hugh Freeze. Not long on the job, but flips a couple commits there yesterday. And, I mean, how much do you think he got Auburn back in the game and maybe going into the next cycle?
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do. It's kind of a big mess down there for them. And it was just like hiring Brian Harsin was a disaster. And it really had nothing to do with Harsin. It's like the whole school has been a mess we had Gus Malzahn was on the hot seat for a decade. And then they go and they get Harsin and they fire the AD. It's like, all these coaches talk about alignment from the coach to the AD to the president. And they say they have it now. I think, Hugh Freeze is going to be able to recruit regardless. They went out and got some guys late. They flipped Keldrick Falk in state, who was a 4-star defensive lineman who I really liked. I saw him a couple weeks ago at an All-Star game. So that's a good start for them. I do think it's going to take a little time to, load up on the bodies. I mean, it's all about the trenches down there. And you can't have, and this was something that even Alabama is like, you can't have a guy like Peter Woods go to Clemson from in the state, and you can't have Georgia go into Alabama and steal top guys. I mean, it used to be kids would never leave the state of Alabama if they were wanted by one of the two in-state schools. So I would imagine Hugh Freeze is going to really work hard on that. And he's a grade A recruiter. I mean, remember when he was at Ole Miss, landing 5 stars out of Chicago or whatever? It was a different era. So I think with it all being above board now, he should have no problem turning them around quick. But it might be this next year might be rough, at least the first year on the job.
A couple other first-year coaches with huge recruiting reputations, and Lincoln Riley and Marcus Freeman. Lincoln Riley took the job. Caleb Williams was coming. Travis Dye was coming. Malachi Nelson committed pretty much right away. And it's like, oh my goodness, USC is going to take over the world. 11 months later, they come in with the number 13 class, according to Rivals. It's, he was number 13 in the average recruiting ranking for the 20 guys that they signed yesterday. I would say a little underwhelming. Would you?
Yeah, but I was telling some of my friends out in Oregon who were asking me, I was like, oh, they blew away USC's class. And I was like, USC just goes to the all Pac-12 team and just decides who they want to steal. Like, that's their recruiting class. It's like,
right.
Who made all Pac-12? Oh, this guy at Arizona and this guy at Washington. Oh, we'll take him and him. I mean, look at the guys they got last year. I mean, they took players. They took the Bolitnikoff Award winner from across the country, and that didn't happen until May. So, to me, it's like it's a free agency destination. So the portals, we still have another wave of portal people after the bowl games. I think people are kind of forgetting about that. Then we'll have another wave in the spring when the window opens again. So there's plenty of time for them to add a lot of talent, and I think we'll see that continue to happen. But they do have a good base of high school guys. I like Nelson. I really like Zachariah Branch. People compare to Tyreek Hill. So that's a good start. And I just think they're going to be getting work done in the portal. And that's just it's almost like the NFL. It's like the draft versus free agency. You need a good base on the draft, but there is no cap, and they will use the portal to their advantage going forward.
And I know we have a lot of Notre Dame listeners on this podcast, and I wanted to get your evaluation of Marcus Freeman's class. Lost a couple of key guys kind of late in the cycle, but still it seems like most reviews give it pretty solid thumbs up.
Yeah, kind of a rough close for them. They lost Dylan Edwards, who was Deion's first big get. That one hurt a lot because they had stolen him away. They lost a running back to Oregon yesterday, and now it looks like they're going to lose Bowen. So that's rough. But to me, I'm not worried about Freeman, especially as a recruiter. I think he does a great job. To me, the question is like the offense is how is Tommy Rees the answer long term? We saw Drew Pine kind of turn it around and look a lot better and win a lot of games down the stretch. So that would give me some hope, but I still think they need to get a little more dynamic on offense. That's why losing a guy like Edwards really hurts, because they don't have that kind of speed there now, and they need those kind of guys in order to. Because their aspiration is to make the playoff and win, so they definitely need to bolster the offense a little.
Well, Woody, last one for me. And am I allowed to say Texas is back, number one? And two, is the Arch commit? Beside you get an awesome quarterback. Is this something that will impact the next 2 to 3 cycles and give them a roster that could maybe compete in the SEC? I think that, on my viewpoint, isn't that the point? You get that elite quarterback play and the recruits can follow with it.
Yeah, when they landed Arch, there was a quick, domino effect especially with a lot of skill position players. The one thing is, Arch has been MIA on, the recruiting scene, and a lot of that doesn't have to do with him. A lot of it has to do with his family, which, they keep doing this thing where it's like, oh, we want him to be like a normal kid. And it's like, well, any normal football player would be going to all these events, so you're not making him like a normal kid. You're hiding him away. And to me, it's like Arch is a funny guy. He's very personable. He's sarcastic. So I think he has that sense of humor, just like his uncles. So we're going to see that. And I think there's going to be a major star factor there when he starts playing. And yeah, I think you are going to see more guys want to play with him, because he has it all. Like, that's the thing, is this narrative that just because of his name. It's like, he looks kind of goofy in his face and his hair. So you're like, look at this kid. He's horrible. He's 6'4", 225 pounds. You know what I mean? This is not like some little dweeb. Like, I just think people have lost focus and lost sight. It's like 5 years ago, not everybody came to everything. This is not that rare. And he played a bunch of games on Friday nights. He had more touchdowns and more passing yards than any of these elite 2023 quarterbacks. So, and then the other argument is, well, what about his competition? It's like, well, guess who went to his school? Odell Beckham went to that school. I don't seem to remember, that being an issue for him. So
he adjusted, right?
Right. Yeah. So to me, it's not an issue. If Quinn Ewers plays like he did the last few games or last back half of this year, Arch Manning will be the starting quarterback by mid-season next year. And so I think Ewers can get his confidence back, but Arch is going to be lurking. This is not, this is a Trevor Lawrence type situation. He's coming in, and it's hard to keep that talent off the field. We've seen that in a lot of schools where eventually maybe the veteran gets 3 or 4 games, and if he's not getting it done, that freshman quarterback ends up being the one.
Very good. All right, Rivals Woody, we will let you go. Follow Woody at Rivals Woody on Twitter. He always has a lot to say. We appreciate your insights. Good luck with your I think it's your first Christmas with two children under the roof.
Yeah, today's my birthday, for crying out loud.
And today's your birthday.
Yeah,
happy birthday.
Come on here. I was like, why did I agree to do this? I did some radio show at like 8 a.m. this morning, and with Cole Klubnik and McElroy. And they sounded like they were half asleep. I'm like, what kind of morning radio show is this? Where's the wacky host? You guys got to have some more energy if you're going to make me get out of bed to come be on the podcast with you or be on a radio show. So I'm making the round. So I'm glad I got to come on and chat with you guys.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. We will check in with you down the road. Thanks a lot, Woody.
All right. See you later.
All right. Mr. Bender. Back to just you and I. It was an interesting day. And, I think in the era of the, freedom of movement and the transfer portal, signing day has taken a little bit less of a, importance to roster building, but it's still important, right? I know some new coaches especially feel like I need to turn this around quick. I'm not going to do it with high school players. I'm going to the transfer portal. But more established programs, this is where you have your foundation for success over the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, and there's a mix, and Woody had great insight, obviously, and I should have asked him because I think one of the programs to me that kind of mastered what we're doing is Michigan. The recruiting class wasn't that great. They landed 2 guys yesterday. I mean, not great. It's still solid, but Jim Harbaugh's working the transfer portal better than anybody else right now. So it's like a combination of NFL free agency, recruiting, and good day for the Wolverines overall, and that's what the game's headed to. It's a mix. It's not the same. I don't want to put it down, but the level of interest when this used to be in February versus now, it's changed because we're sandwiched in the middle of bowl season and all those things that we're doing.
Right. Speaking of bowl season, let's get back to the confidence contest. We'll pick 5 more bowl games this week. We'll update where we are. We picked 4 games last show or 2 shows ago where we went through last night's bowls. I ended up getting my 4-pointer and my 2-pointer for 6 total points. You nailed your 4-pointer last night. Western Kentucky came through for you. You had a 1-pointer, so you came up with 5. So it's 6-5 after our first segment of the confidence contest. Now we move into segment 2. We're going to have 3 phases of this, or three segments. Segment 2 is going to be, we're going to pick 5 non-New Year's 6 bowls between now and the rest of bowl season. And then, next week, we will pick the New Year's 6 bowls. So
does the trivia question come first?
I do have to ask you a trivia question first, but yeah, we will go through our 5. My trivia question to you today. Don't answer to the end of the show. What school has the all-time longest bowl win streak? You have to think about that a little bit. I can give you hints if it's
That's a tough one.
obscure, but we'll see. Let's go into our picks. I'll kick us off since I'm in the lead with our 5-pointer. I'm going to go the Holiday Bowl, Wednesday, December 28th, 8 o'clock on Fox. I'm taking Oregon -14 against North Carolina. Oregon coming off a big signing day yesterday. But anyway, at least both quarterbacks are playing in this one. Bo Nix has opted to come back one more year at Oregon. Of course, Drake May announced he's staying at North Carolina after a spectacular redshirt freshman season. The Ducks have 15 scholarship players in the portal, and 2 others have opted out of the bowl game, leaving them with only 67. But UNC really got hit hard too, particularly in their secondary. And the biggest tragedy possibly of bowl season, the defensive back Storm Duck is passing on a chance to play the Ducks.
Yeah.
Come on. That can't happen. But anyway, I feel like Oregon is going to light up North Carolina. Give me the Ducks.
Yeah, I stayed away. I thought about it because if I was going to take this one, I was thinking about the Tar Heels turning this into a shootout, and that's a lot of points for a bowl game, but it's one I'm just staying away from. So, that's a big pick too. A big spread, a big pick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking kind of a risk with my fiver. I'm going to go Texas -4.5 over Washington in the Alamo Bowl. This is the Texas's back bowl. That's why I asked Woody the question. They're 4-1 all time in this one. It's close. It's a home game. It's close to home. They've used this game in the past to prop up their following season, and I just think they win a shootout. Now, the 4.5's a little tricky because Michael Penix and the Huskies will put up some points as well, but I've just seen Texas do this one so many times. It's like clockwork. They win this game. The reaction for next season comes. Talked about Arch coming in. There's going to be a lot of excitement around the Horns next year, so I'm going to go fiver on Texas.
All right. Let's see what we can do. My 4-pointer, Citrus Bowl, Monday, January 2nd, 2 o'clock on ABC. I'm taking another big one, LSU -14 over Purdue. They got to cover 2 touchdowns. Looks like LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels is healthy enough to play. Brian Kelly gave an update this week that he looks like he's ready to return to some game action. Big news for the Tigers right there. Purdue is without their starting quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, their star wide receiver, Charlie Jones, who had almost 1,400 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns this year. Head coach Jeff Brom also gone to Louisville. So the Big Ten West champs, they're kind of depleted. I like LSU big in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with mine. That's not a bad pick. I mean, I again, with all the Purdue depletion, that I see a theme in your pick so far. So you went. It's hard because here. So my next one is an emotion pick. I'm going to go with Mississippi State +2 in the Relentless Bowl. They pay tribute to Mike Leach in style. Illinois lost a coordinator, obviously, had a couple guys sitting out the bowl game. Looking back at Mike Leach, we talked a lot about him in the podcast last week. He was 8-7 in bowl games, and I think the Bulldogs take care of business in this one. They throw it around, and it's an emotional game. And I'm going to go with the Bulldogs on. Sometimes you just got to make an emotional pick in these bowl games, and that's one that I could see happening. Because I'm going to be honest, I'll probably sit there and root for the Bulldogs for that one, just one time.
Yeah, no question. I think that's going to be interesting to see how they honor him. The tributes yesterday, was it yesterday? In Starkville were great, good stories and everything. That was very well done. And I thought about that. Mississippi State really is going to have a lot of emotion on their side for that one. My 3-pointer, Pinstripe Bowl, Thursday, December 29th, 2 o'clock, ESPN. Minnesota. I'm taking Minnesota -10 over Syracuse. Again, I'm going with the less depleted team here. I'm getting cold just talking about this game. You figure this is going to be freezing at Yankee Stadium. It's going to be who can run the ball better, right? Mo Ibrahim is set to play for the Gophers, and Minnesota's go-to back, 1,600 yards, 19 touchdowns this year. Syracuse's star running back, Sean Tucker, not playing. So, they will be also without both coordinators. They have moved on. I don't know if Minnesota's Tanner Morgan is playing at quarterback, but I do think this is going to be a run-oriented game. The Gophers are 3-0 in bowl games under PJ Fleck. I say they make it 4-0, and I say they do it in the double-digit fashion.
Yeah, that could. And, that'll be a quick, cold game, even though it's a little close to home for Syracuse. So my 3 is another risky one. I've got 3 underdogs. This is my second underdog. I got South Carolina, 2.5 dog over Notre Dame. The uncertainty at Notre Dame at quarterback. I think the Gamecocks were like if we were in this 12-team, 16-team format, they'd be a danger team to play if the playoffs were starting now. They were one of the hottest teams in the country late. I think Shane Beamer uses this to build some momentum. And imagine that. They could close the season beating Tennessee, Clemson, and Notre Dame. Nobody pictured that with a team that we watched Georgia mop up with. So I'm going to go the Gamecocks, 3 points, 2.5-point underdog.
I haven't seen if Spencer Rattler's officially playing. Have you?
I have not. So I'm going to assume he is, hopefully. But again, I
would assume he is too.
Yeah.
I don't think he's an NFL guy quite yet. But yeah, I hadn't seen confirmation on that. I was trying to find that. But Notre Dame's quarterback situation very up in the air. Supposedly Tyler Buckner's ready to go, but we shall see. And even if he does play, he hasn't played in 3 months, so could be some rust there. My 2-pointer, the Gasparilla Bowl, Friday, December 23rd, 6:30 ESPN. Wake Forest -1 over Missouri. Sam Hartman playing his final game for Wake Forest. He needs 1 touchdown pass to set the all-time ACC record for touchdown passes. He is tied with Clemson's. Let's see if we can get it. He is tied with Clemson's
Klubnik, or what's the question?
All-time ACC touchdown
passes. Is he
passes.
tied with Taj?
Taj Boyd. You got it.
Oh, yeah. I knew Taj had there, right? Well, Taj played there for 4 years, right?
So Wake struggled down the stretch big time. They lost 4 of their last 5, and it started with that game against Louisville where they had 8 second-half turnovers. I don't think they ever really recovered from that shock. But with Hartman playing and A.T. Perry, their best wide receivers playing, Missouri's missing 3 starters on defense and its best wide receivers sitting out. I'm sort of surprised the line's still at 1. I'm taking Wake Forest.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I thought about that one. The way that they were not protecting Hartman late in the year gives me a little bit of pause because Missouri's got some dudes that can get after the passer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily love my next pick, but I'm going for it anyway. I Coastal and East Carolina. So I got pointed this out that I put in our bowl predictions, when these Carolina schools play each other. I had them both in North Carolina. I had to go back. Oh yeah, Coastal Carolina's in Conway. When I lived down there, I always viewed South Carolina and North Carolina as the Carolinas. So this is a Carolinas bowl. Pirates were 1-3 against the spread when favored by 7 or less. So I'm going to take the Chanticleers Coastal +8 Birmingham Bowl covering against East Carolina. Grayson McCall is going to play. I don't know how that affects the locker room. I get it. They don't have their coach. The quarterback's on the way, 1 foot out. Or in the portal at least.
They love him. They love him.
So I think they're going to rally. I think they're going to rally around him. I don't know if they win the game, but I do think they cover here and make a statement that their program's still there. And the Sun Belt's been, with the exception of last night, the Sun Belt's been pretty good in these bowl games.
My 1-pointer. This is for entertainment purposes practically only, but Music City Bowl, Saturday, December 31st at noon on ESPN. I'm taking Kentucky +2.5 over Iowa. And this one is going to be
10-9.
First of all, it's going head-to-head with the Sugar Bowl. That's kicking off at noon. All right. And then it's an appetizer before the CFP semifinals, which are at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock on New Year's Eve. So somebody
told me Kentucky has a big basketball game in that window too.
This is the stepchild bowl of New Year's Eve without a doubt. And, also points are going to be incredibly hard to come by. The over-under is 31. I've never seen an over-under at 31. It's just amazing. But, Will Levis isn't playing for Kentucky. Iowa, who did not have good quarterback play to begin with, is down to its 3rd-string quarterback and a freshman named Joe Labus. He'll be making his first start. The over-under may be the most entertaining part of this game. Both offenses figured to be completely overmatched by good defenses. And in this case, I was like, I didn't see the spread. I said, whoever's getting points, I'm taking it because I don't know who's going to score. So Kentucky's getting 2.5. I'm taking blue.
Take less ugly. That will be ugly. I'm, I do this. It's third time I've tried my alma mater for my 1-pointer, and a 1-point favorite against Wyoming. I missed Ohio. I think I picked them twice this year. I picked them to beat Kent State. It didn't happen. I picked them to beat Toledo in the MAC title game. It didn't happen. I'm gonna try one more time. 3-0 against the Mountain West in bowl games all time. The Bobcats, they are at the Barstool Bowl, and I think Tim Alvin gets to 10 wins. They it's a pick 'em. So, Wyoming struggled to score their last 3 games. I think they only averaged 10.3 points per game. So I'm going to go with the Bobcats. Give me 1 point. Bring it home. It'd be a good finish for Ohio. And the MAC. The MAC's done okay in bowl games so far. It's been hit or miss. I mean, obviously, no, they've been more than hit or miss. Miami played well in a loss, and Emu and Toledo got the sweep the other night.
All right, so let's recap. It's interesting. We picked 10 different games.
That's good.
No overlap. So my 5-pointer, I took Oregon -14. 4-pointer, LSU -14. My 3-pointer, Minnesota -10. So I got 3 favorites that have to cover double digits. My 2-pointer, Wake Forest -1, and then 1-pointer, Kentucky +2.5 in the Shutout Bowl. Bill Bender goes with Texas -4.5 as his 5-pointer, Mississippi State +2, South Carolina +2.5 over Notre Dame, Coastal +8 in the Carolina Bowl, and Ohio, the alma mater, -1. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's give the trivia answer, and then we will get out of here. The trivia question was, who has the all-time longest bowl winning streak? Let me know if you need a hint.
I have a pure guess because I remember doing this capsule a couple years ago. Is it Fresno State?
It is not Fresno State.
Okay, they had a long
Power 5 conference team, and they built this starting in the 80s and carried into the 90s. Power 5.
So probably Miami then, maybe.
Close.
Not Miami.
Same state. Florida State.
Florida State. That makes
Florida
sense.
State won 11 straight bowl games from 1985 to 1995. So that is
trying to pick the one record. That's a really good streak. I think I'm going to look up what Fresno State was. I think it was like 7 or 8. I mean, it's hard to win 11 straight bowl games.
There was some surprising, I don't have it in front of me anywhere. There was some surprising schools at Boston College had like an 8-game bowl win streak, mostly like, non-January 1 bowls. UCLA had a strain, kind of a surprising bowl win streak for a while or whatever. So, but Florida State was at the top of the list. So, all right, well, great show. We talked a little recruiting. We made some bowl picks. Next week, we will be back. We'll start getting into the New Year's 6, and then I will be reporting from the Peach Bowl as Georgia and Ohio State get ready to go later in the week. We're only less than 2 weeks away from the CFP semifinals, Bill. If you can believe that.
It's going to be fun. Thanks so much. Yeah. Merry Christmas to all our listeners, too. Have a good holiday. See you on the other side.
Thank you very much for listening once again, and we will see you next week on the CFB Nation All-America podcast.